In this tutorial, I'm going to demonstrate how you can use Word and images to create the cover for a nonfiction book. To begin, I have my template open here. I'm going to start and I'm going to have a gray background, and then I'm going to have a white square or rectangle over the gray background. So just to begin, I'm going to go ahead and set my background. I click on Design, Page Color, and it's going to be gray. Now, the first element that I'm going to do is a white rectangle that is just going to leave a gray border. So I'm going to Insert, Shapes, and I choose a rectangle. And I just kind of eyeball this. You could turn the grid on and it would be exact if you want, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to eyeball it. Let me go over here and put that to size. Now, I want my rectangle to be white. Now, as always, when you bring in an element, go to the selection pane, and let's call this, it's going to be white background. And then I'm going to right-click, wrap text, and behind text. Now, I want to format this, so I'm going to right-click on it, and I'm going to open up my Format Shape pane if it's not already open. And I want the fill to be solid, but I want it to be white. And I don't want a line, so I'm going to choose no line. So what I'm left with is it looks like a white box with a thick gray background. And if I wanted to break it up a little bit, I would actually click on that and maybe give it an outline, but I don't want a solid, a dark, so maybe I just do a darker shade of gray than what's in the background. So let's zoom in on that and see how that looks. Not too bad. And then if I wanted to, I could do, I can increase the width of the line, make it a little heavier if I want. So that looks good. Let me go back and zoom out. Now, the color scheme for this cover is red. Let me bring in the image that I'm going to use, and from that image is where I'm going to get my color scheme. So I'm going to go Insert, Pictures, and this is the image for the book. This is actually called a codex, and it is representative of cracking a code. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label it Codex, right click, and this should be old hat by now. Wrap text, behind text. Now that I've done that, I can move it around and size it the size I want. So it's going to be pretty prominent on the book, so I'm going to put it that size. And again, I can always go back and move it, do whatever I want. Now you can see the color scheme here are black and red, so I'm going to pull those colors and use in the text. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the title at the top. I'm going to Insert, Text Box, Draw Text Box, and I'm going to use 3 or 4 separate text boxes because my text is going to be different size and color. So the first word in my title is cracking, and let me just kind of set that a little bit. I know I'm going to want that is red. I'm going to want it very large, and again I can go back and tweak this, and the font that I use, I believe, is that one. So I've got to make it a little smaller. Again, I can go back and change it as need be. Alright, so let me do what I always do, change the name. This is going to be cracking, and because it is an object, I have to right click, wrap text, behind text. Alright, so that's a little large. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. I don't really want it to 48. That's a little small. Let's see what 60 does. Alright, so I'm just going to leave that like it is. Now, I don't want the fill or the shading on my text box, so I will click on that, go to Shape Options. I want no fill, no line. I just want the red text on the background. And I may have to make that a little smaller still, because you have to keep in mind when you're doing these books, there's going to be a little bit of an edge. When you're doing covers for paperback books, you really have to take into consideration the edge, the bleed, that sort of thing. We will have another course on that coming up shortly, and we'll go into that. So there's my first word, cracking, and then I want the entrepreneur and then the word code. So I can insert a new text box, but since I'm going to use this font, I'm going to just duplicate that by copy and paste. And I'm going to go ahead and just use this for the word code. And let me go in and change it here. And I already have the fill and the line turned off. Now the word code is going to be much larger than the other. So I'm going to put it to 72, probably go even larger than that. And this will all make sense once I have everything put together on the page. I'm going to turn off my codex for now. And that may be a little large, but we'll find out. So let's move that down. Now I want to bring in, or I want the words the and entrepreneur. So I'm just going to copy this one again. And I'll go ahead and put the words in there, and then I will refine them. And what I'm going to do is make this a black font. And I'm going to make it considerably smaller because I want the word entrepreneur to be about the width of cracking. All right. And because the is really not a priority word, I'm going to reduce it just a little bit. About right there. Now again, this looks okay. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes, but if I was actually going to use this file for the cover of my book, I might play with the line spacing a little bit, because I see it is a bit much, and I can go in and change that. But with Word, there's only so much good you can do with line spacing. That's why a lot of the time I will break these individual lines of words or lines of text up into individual. But that's not too bad there. I think I can live with that. So I'm going to leave that. And then I'm going to bring the word code up. So the main title of the book is Cracking the Entrepreneur Code. And then I'm going to turn the picture of my codex back on. The next thing I want to do is insert another rectangle here that has a red background that I can put white text in for the book tagline. Now, I could use a rectangle and then just put the text over the top of that, but I can also just use a text box. If I insert text box, draw text box, and what I want that text box to look like is I want it to have a fill of red, the same red that I'm using for my text. Let me make some changes to it. Wrap text, behind text. I'm going to call this red box. All right, so now I'm going to go over to my shape options, and I want to close this up a little bit here. Fill, solid fill. I want it filled with the same red that I'm using for the text, and I want the line to be solid, and I want it to be the same gray that I'm using for the outer border, and I want it to be thick. So I'm going to give it a thickness of 12.5. Now you can see it pretty much matches the border going there, and now I can put my slogan in if I just click in the text box and type in my slogan. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this text a little larger so I can actually see it as I type. I'm going to make it white. I'm going to center it. I'm going to use Georgia just for now to see how it's going to look. I'm going to make it big enough that I can actually see what I'm doing. There we go. So the proven. Now I'm going to have to go back and tweak that a little bit because Word will capitalize the first letter of a line. So let me change the size. Let me remove the space. All right. So again, this is actually the cover of a book that I'm writing on small business success. So the proven method that will, I want to make sure that's a small W. Sometimes Word thinks it's smarter than you are. Greatly increase your odds of small business success. So the elements are coming together. I've got some moving around and sizing to do, but I'm very happy with where it's going. Now I want to put my name at the bottom. So my name is going to be in black, so I'm just going to copy and paste this text box. Again, I could insert a new text box if I want to, but because this one already has the lines in the fill set, I'm going to just use it. So I'm going to put in my name. And let me make the name a little larger. And move it down just a bit. And I need to rename this one my name, Tim Knox. All right, so the elements are coming together nicely. Do I really like that size? I think I do. I'm going to tweak it just a little bit. I can see if 36 is really too small. So yeah, I do like 48. So I will leave that there. This may look a little busy, so what I will do is I'll go to the codex here and I'll make it just a bit smaller. And I think what's really overwhelming is the word code. So let me make it a little smaller. And again, the nice thing about Word is once you have all of your elements in play, it's really easy to just move things around and get them where you want. Now that's looking pretty good. I can do further tweaks if I want. You know, if I wanted to put a shadow behind my text, I could always do that. If I go to text options, shadow, not sure I want a shadow. Let's just see what it looks like. Yeah, it gives it a little more depth. So let's do that to each one. I'm going to give each one a shadow. And actually, which one is this? This is the entrepreneur. Forgot to rename that label, and that's why I rename them so I can tell what I'm clicking on. But when you click on it, it is going to give you the outline. So I'm going to click on that one. Do I want a shadow there? I think I do. And you can see when you give a shadow, it also will affect the spacing between the code or between the lines. So you decide whether or not you want to even that up or what you want to do for it. All right, I'm going to move that up a little bit, and I think I gave cracking a shadow. Let me make sure. Yes. So now I have all of my elements. I really like the book design. My primary colors of red and black are well represented here. I like the way the text is laid out. So not a bad looking cover. There may be a few other tweaks I might make to it before I would go to print, but all in all, this is really what the cover of the book would look like. So again, it doesn't matter if you are doing a fiction book or a nonfiction book. The process is very much the same. Start off from the background and work your way forward. Get your elements in play, and then you can tweak them, you can size them, you can move them, and you will end up with an awesome cover just like this.